I'm going to call the July 2nd, 2025 select board meeting to order.
Hey,
Yeah,
how are you?
Do you have any adjustments to the agenda tonight?
Yes, I'd like to discuss the trash ordinance. The trash ordinance.
Okay. We'll put that on the select board review. Any adjustments to the agenda? Hearing on, we'll move on to the approval of the minutes of June 18th. For the motion to accept the minutes.
I'll make that motion.
On the second,
Second.
have any discussion on the minutes, corrections, solutions? Hearing none, then, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So carried. Comments from the community.
Yes, I was hoping that I can talk to the select board about the Wolcott Arts Collaborative. I'm Jim Ryan. The group of Wolcott residents is in the process of forming Wolcott Arts Collaborative. WAC for short. And we've been doing some research into what other communities are doing for community projects, arts, music, community events, and trying to maybe make some more use of the ballet Wolcott Town Hall building, and to hold some live music, some concerts, contra dances, and some potentially some like game nights, arts, and other crafts that we can host at the Valley Wolcott when Valley Wolcott's not using the building. And we looked into what other towns were doing, Hardwick's Civic Standard, for example, and Cabot Arts, as well as what Craftsbury is doing and supporting some community events kind of on the perimeter of quasi town events, but with the support of the select boards in those towns. And we were here to Bradley and Michelle and I were part of the Wolcott Arts Collaborative, as well as Neil McNaughton and Zeph Courtney, and that's kind of what we started out with. We're going to expand that group as well to have some more arts and crafts folks on board. We have a couple of community events planned for August, kind of a soft opening. Bradley has a musician friend from Michigan that kind of a solo artist that we're looking to have in early August. And we also like to piggyback potentially on the town community dinner event after the dinner. We have a lot of folks down here in town, and then offer some live music. We have a lot of musical talent and arts and crafts folks right in town that we'd like to take advantage of. Ian Burton just moved up on the Marsh Road. He is the lead singer, songwriter, guitarist for a band called the Wild Leaf River Band, and he does solo acoustic music as well. We have Jim Taranko. We have also Ian's partner, who's also a musician. Neil McNaughton, and I mentioned, those are just a few that come to mind. Just to showcase the local talent that we have in town, make use of the building, and what we're here to ask select board's first kind of formally letting select board know that we're forming this collaborative and hope to get the support of the select board, and also a request that for Wolcott Arts collaborative events specifically, if the rental fee could be waived. It's only $60 something, but we have to come up with a PA system, and we pay the performers, for their time. Some will do it pro bono, but some need to get paid. And we're hoping that we'll have like a sliding scale donation at the door to help pay for the musicians as well. And maybe down the road, we need like a fresh coat of paint on the inside of the building, which it looks like it needs. Not on the outside, not a big, like a touch-up job, make it look a little bit nicer, more appealing to bring in a lot of people. Can hold up to 100 people in there, so that's a great historic building. And I think we can use it more to serve the community. I think Valley Wolcott's doing a great job with those very specific users. And we would like to open this up to all ages, from kids up through the seniors in the community. And we have applied for grants in the past, especially for the senior community, to have them involved, but also on the other side of the spectrum, kids as well. We've had some contentious votes in town, like the school vote recently and the wastewater vote. And I think this would be a great way to just bring the community together, and like the community barbecues and the event that we had last week. I think those were all great events for the community. Let's see. It's more of that on a regular basis.
How about
We're not planning on it immediately, and if we did, I know there'd be a license requirement. We're doing kind of acoustic music to kick things off, but we can envision later on having like full bands. There are a lot of bands that play locally at like Moon's Joint and Moon's Place, Morris Johnson, that have a big following, and we could potentially do that if the band, in that case, could provide the alcohol insurance if the board would approve that. That's a potential that could be a bigger draw, and then we wouldn't have to worry about the insurance. Like 10 Ben's Brewery in Hyde Park has expressed interest in offering that service, and they would provide the insurance if we wanted to go to that route. That's not initially in the plan, but it could potentially be that if everybody agrees to that.
when you get to that point, if you do decide to go that route, you get like a caterer's permit through the Department of Liquor and Control, and that permit and that insurance. I mean, so many days before you have to apply for it, but like 10 bands would get that catering permit from the state and carry the insurance.
Yeah, I think
And then they would make all the profit, and they would be responsible for the alcohol.
Yeah, I think they've done that.
Yes.
Similar, and they have that insurance.
Right.
To do that if we want to go down that path, but mostly it would not be that, but maybe an occasional event is what we would happen.
Yeah, just people bringing in a 6-pack is kind of dangerous, and
Right.
it's either one or the other.
Right.
Town's liability.
Yeah, the events we have planned in August will be. And we're looking into potential sponsors of events, the Union Bank, or MSI, and put the development list.
I would be in favor of it. It's creating more community, and that's what we're trying to do for our town, is create the community.
I like to say anytime that I'm putting on into back now is my personal time, so I'm not doing it on time.
And then we just want to think before I forget, we don't necessarily want to go down the path of becoming a nonprofit, but we may ask the town if we can apply for grants under the town for, like, if we need to buy a PA system for the building, then we won't be a nonprofit organization, but maybe we can ask that the town can apply for a grant on behalf of
They would be the sponsor.
sponsor, yeah. We're in the very early stages, and we just thought we'd reach out to the select board now before we get in too deep.
Any comments? Have any?
My gut feeling is, right now it's summer. Fall, no problem, but when it comes to winter, we're gonna be using fuel. I think at least $60 per winter event, just to help cover on the fuel. Would be bad. But at least you'll have, I don't know, 3-4 months, and you can see if it works or not.
Yeah, I'm familiar with, Michelle shared with me this, just today, the schedule for Valley Wolcott. Do they use it through the winter?
Yeah.
Use it year round.
Okay.
But if ballet was in there till 1 o'clock on Saturday, and you're gonna have it in the afternoon, it's not that much more for, it's already warmed up.
So I think most of the events would probably be like Saturday night or something like that.
Yeah.
Or maybe Sundays, but I hope it's not on Sunday, because it should be Sunday or later Friday night, maybe.
To do like a reduced rate, if not full. I mean, not the full rental fee, maybe a reduced.
What's the fee now?
$60.
Oh, you're gonna have people going in and out all the time. I think that door's gonna be open and shut. It's not gonna be like the ballet where it's shut. People come in periodically every hour, hour and a half. It's totally different.
Richard, what are your thoughts? Yes. Can you hear us, Richard?
Yeah, I can hear you.
I wonder if you have any thoughts.
All right. I had a glitch in the system. I had to reboot. I'm sorry.
So this is they're creating this arts collaborative in town. They want, hold some public events, or hold some events, for the whole community, children up through seniors, music events, or maybe some arts events, and they're here to ask if, they could use the town hall for free. And, you want to explain to them, did you hear it all, anything?
No, I, as long as the liabilities are covered, by one or the other, I think it'll be all right, but.
We're hoping this would be officially or unofficially an offshoot of the town sponsoring this, whatever we want to, however we want to structure this. We're doing this for the town, we're doing this for the community. We're doing this to make money and everything else. But we don't want to have separate nonprofit.
Do you know how the other towns, deal with this? In terms of,
as far as
are they a committee, through the town, or are they nonprofit, or do you research that?
We're in the process of researching that now and looking at that, but I haven't got into the financial part of that yet.
I know Craftsberry has, so if you go to the Craftsberry page and you look at their events, a lot of events are sponsored by the outdoor center, but a lot of these places charge fees to get in, and we were gonna go donation based. And Craftsberry does offer, they always collect donations, but they've been going quite well with all of their library events, and you know, the chamber players play. So they're constantly collecting donations. So they have their chamber players play, or they're some serious bands. And it's just by donation. But I don't know what sort of grants or what town puts in town.
They're sponsored by the, outdoor,
The outdoor center will host workout, like crack fit, things like that. So they have that new athletic barn, that new wellness center barn, it's right there in the common. And they host events there. But again, I don't know about the money portion of it.
I think,
I was just like thinking of liability. And who is sponsoring it, and is it part of the town? Like the planning commission or like the garden club.
Right.
They just kind of developed, but it's kind of the towns, kind of. So that's what I'm trying to find out, how other towns, you know, looked at these organizations.
I believe, like the Craftsberry Common Concert Series, that the town pays for the music, for example. We're not asking that. And budget for that, or they have a Fourth of July block party tomorrow in Craftsberry. A lot of businesses donate to, but the town throws some that as well. We would like the town to have the liability for the events. This is separate from the alcohol question. The town's liability insurance.
So can we do some more research, because I'm thinking like, well, we have a forest and we have trails and stuff, and we have a forest committee that just kind of evolved under the town. So I guess we need to do just a little bit more research, okay? Otherwise, we're just speculating.
But could a consideration be for this Wolcott Arts Collaborative to be a committee that the select board designates, and therefore?
Well, that's what I want to look into. How other towns did it, and is it a town? How is it, you know, set up?
I think you're
If it
probably,
was, go ahead.
I think you're probably gonna, if you're doing research, when I ask the town clerk, can you have it? I don't remember exactly how they do theirs, but she would know that question.
Yeah, they do have the events in the town building upstairs.
Upstairs, and they have a bunch of those events in town with cheese festival and a fall one and all this other stuff.
Yeah, they have a big outside event too.
And
Festival.
Morrisville has what, they have MAP, they call that MAP? Morrisville Alliance for Cultural something.
Okay.
It'd be nice to know.
Nice.
I can find out for you, does that fall under the town? Or is that a separate nonprofit? So what, can we just do some research, because otherwise we don't have the right information tonight, but to figure it out.
The Morrisville Recreation Committee, Rec Department sponsors the Oxbow festivals, for example, in Morrisville. I know our rec department is something separate, but
Right,
it's an example.
right.
Let's table it until.
We're just gonna do a little more research, that's all. I commend you for doing that and creating a community. I know there's a lot of people liking to have more music, and when we did our event the other night, that was one thing that people wanted, and they wanted us to create space for more music. You know, that's what we're hoping when we get these buildings revitalized. And if you do some art things, you know, this room is available a lot of times too, if it isn't. You know, if you want to do an art project or something, art class or something. Except for Sunday mornings. AA,
We'll continue to do our research.
yeah, we'll be in communication. Thank you. Have any other community comments? No, we'll quickly go over the correspondence. We did receive a letter from, Kenneth Williams, who owns that blue building next to Bernard's, and we're in the process of getting ready to demolish Mr. Earl's property, as a flood buyout. They share a well. The well is actually on Mr. Williams' property, but he's claiming that the pressure tank and the electricity are at Mr. Earl's house. But I've already dealt with it with the state. We're working. I'm gonna pass around the letter of thanks for Flint Wine from SSW Erectors. For thanking him for all his work on the ball field over there. He actually went over and above. And he went over and above and so he's donated $8,000, donating $8,000 of his own money to cover the added costs that FEMA didn't cover. So we have a letter of thanks for him. I'll pass around. We have some other things to sign, but I'll bring them up later in the meeting. Okay, we have Jack Trelliston here, Chair of the Board of Mayor's Trust, and he's just going to quickly, well, not quickly, he's going to summarize the process for the conservation easement in East Hill Road. I did send an official letter to them saying that the voters had approved the conserving that land, 9.5 acre parcel on East Hill Road.
I'll start by saying we're delighted that the town did vote in favor of conserving that property. It's a very special property. It's worthy of conservation. I brought along some reading material for you. 19 pages worth. Not expecting you to read it anytime soon. But the first page is the most important because it tells you what the land trust will need from you to get this done. We've been through this process before now with the community forest, so I'm probably going to repeat a lot of what you already know and have been through. This will be, I think, quite a bit quicker than the 2-year process it took to do the community forest, because you already own the property. It's there, you don't have to worry about raising money to buy the property. But the main thing that we need from the town is some indication of what your goals and objectives are for the property. What do you see as potential future uses of that property? Do you just want to protect it and leave it alone? Do you anticipate recreational trails on the property? Things of that nature, maybe a kiosk describing for the public what is there. So it would help us in drafting the various documents to understand answers to those questions. And as you know, when you were working with the community forest, you appointed a stewardship committee who handled all of that for you. They did a townwide survey. And I'm not saying you have to be that elaborate for this 9-acre property. But seems to me having some input from your town residents would be worthwhile. Or some short survey on, what the townsfolk would like to see happen in the property. The larger document that I handed you is an actual template of a conservation easement. The key word there is template, so it's not a complete document. But it will show you all of the various types of restrictions that are placed on property when they're conserved and what types of activities are allowed. So I would encourage you to take your time and look through that. If you have questions or concerns, you can always get in touch with me. If you can't get in touch with me, get in touch with Jim Ryan, who is recently appointed as a trustee to the Northern Rivers Land Trust. We're delighted to have him. And he has hit the ground running as a new trustee. The other kinds of things that we're going to need from you are simple. If there's a survey of the property, that would be great to have. Are there any boundary issues that you're aware of? We'll need a copy of the deed, the lister card, things of that nature. And as you know, there's a stewardship endowment of $6,500. And I'm aware that you're trying to raise that through fundraising efforts. We'd like to know how that's going for you because we can help you. We have about 350 members in the land trust. And we put out a newsletter when we have specific projects that need to have money raised for them. We can alert our members. And I think they'd be willing to come forward to help you with raising that money. Additionally, the land trust itself can put cash toward that endowment. That money stays in a special fund with the land trust and is used for monitoring of the property, which will occur annually, once a year, usually in the fall. And if there's ever any legal challenge, they're extremely rare, but if there were any legal challenge to the easement, that money would go to protect the easement at the court level. The kind of things that the land trust will do for you, first thing we do is a title search. Our attorney will do that. We cover those costs. You don't have to worry about that. Eventually, the large document you have in front of you will be completely filled in with all the pertinent information. It will be legally reviewed by our attorney. I would encourage you to have looked at by your attorney as well. Totally up to you. We also will prepare what is called a baseline documentation report. And that is you've seen one for the community forest, but it's merely a description of what the property looks like, consists of at the time it's conserved. So it's a lot of photography work where we'll go in and take photos of the boundaries and the corners, the entryway, and any special botany, habitats, wetlands, things of that nature. We'll prepare that document. Down will receive a copy of that when you sign on the dotted line. I already said we'll monitor the property annually to make sure that the easement is being lived up to. If you do appoint a small committee to sort of help you with stewarding that property, we will be happy to attend all of those meetings and keep that group filled in on what the easement says, answer all the questions, what I help them in any way we can. And as I said before, we're ready to help with fundraising as well. That's sort of it in a nutshell. It's an 18-page legal document, so there's a lot of legalese there. But I would, encourage you to spend a little bit of time. So you know exactly what you're getting into. This is an agreement that lasts in perpetuity. So we have to make sure we get it right the first time, because it's hard to change once you sign on the bottom line. But I'll be happy to answer any questions, any concerns you might have.
So what do you envision the stewardship committee or the appointment, point one would be doing? And would it be just up to the acquisition of the easement, or would it continue?
Well, look at your stewardship committee for the community.
Yeah.
They were, I think, a 16-member committee that was active monthly, if not more often, up until the point that the easement was finished and you own the property. After that, the committee dropped down to, I think, 6 or 7 members. There's a lot going on in the forest with trail building and things of that nature. So it's good to keep that committee active. See that necessarily being the case for this small property. It just would be helpful upfront to know what you want to make of that property. And then I think once that's decided, if there are changes down the road, there are provisions in the easement document to allow those to happen. So you don't have to decide every single issue before the easement is signed. Just like you have with community.
And there's no rush. I'm thinking that we have a big event at the end of August. It'd be the ideal time to have a survey or get community input about
Perfect.
100 people come at least.
Absolutely perfect. Yeah. The other, I haven't talked to Gordon Young, who's the chair of the Town Forest District Committee, but personally, I was thinking maybe this is an added assignment for that committee. They've been through the process before. They know all the ins and outs. I don't think it would take a lot of their extra time. And it's been truly an amazing group to work with. I attended almost every one of their meetings, and I've never met a group that's more engaged and more dedicated to that whole process. I don't think you could be better than that committee. All I have.
Any questions? Any questions, Richard?
Thank you very
Thank you very
much.
much for your time.
I'm out of here.
You won't hear from us.
If anything comes up, just go right here and answer your question. Thank you all. Take care.
Okay, we're gonna have a legislative updates from Representative Dan Noyes, Richard Bailey, and Senator Richard Westman. Nothing in particular. We're just happy to hear about new legislation that affects municipalities, things that are going to hurt us, things that are going to help us. I was talking to Rich, and I was particularly interested in the bill where it helped towns that had flooding and buyouts for the grand list. I could not find it. I must have.
It's in budget.
Oh, that's why I couldn't find it. The VLTC told me it was in Act 57, but I could not find it.
It's
So I'd like to hear about
and it was it mimicked what they did the year before for the flood that, and if you want details on it, I can dig the details up, give it to you.
My question is this, does the town, how does the town go about, so I heard from VLTC two things. I heard that, towns that have buyouts, that their grand list can be set up like on the slope. So that, 10 years, so that it isn't all gonna come crashing in 1 year. And the other thing I heard was that you could get some, reimbursement for, taxes, you know.
It's mostly the reimbursement for taxes that's in the
The
budget.
other one.
And you, are, Seth over at County Planning Commission would probably have details for that, but I can definitely get you that. But they do help you on a sliding scale, and there is money in the budget to cover that.
Yeah, so that was a big thing. When you look at the towns that got flooded like Johnson and Wolcott, there was a lot of buyouts, and that's gonna have a huge impact on the grant.
And it's,
So,
and this mimics exactly what we, was in the budget, the 2 years before.
My question is, how do you go about, do you have to apply for it? Does automatically happen? Who do I talk to make sure that we are being considered? That's all. You know,
Yeah, I
don't
think,
wanna lose that.
let me, I'll get you, who in the tax department you should talk to, but also, I think Seth, has the details about.
and they may be still developing parts of that, as you know.
I actually don't think they're developing, because I think they're following exactly what they did, before.
So when would this be effective by?
They said it was retroactive, but they're free.
Yep.
That was my big question.
It is retroactive, so it will help you, it helps pay the taxes as if the building was there, and then does a sliding scale.
Based on last year's tax bill then?
But,
And I'll get you somebody to talk to.
all right. That was the only question I had, but you can.
What if our BCA has abated it?
I don't know the details, I'd have to get that, but let me find out who you can,
Okay,
Yeah, because some of them have already paid taxes because the house was.
right. And the town did it because they were hit. I mean, well, why would we do it? Yeah,
Live there.
well,
right.
you couldn't live there anymore, and if the property, some of these places in Barry and in Johnson, they demolished the place.
Another one that came up that I heard from Belinda on was around the power lines.
Yeah.
And the reduction in the valuation of those to the town. Apparently, they went through and looked at what they were taxing power lines in towns that don't have power generation or substations really went down. Where, other towns that have it went up, but generally power companies ended up paying more. The tax department requested how many miles of lines they have, and then where the substations were and the valuation of that, because those are the most expensive part, are the power generation and substation. And because we don't have those, that's pretty much what happened. When I talked to VEC about it, even though I was just trying to gather information, they said it should have been rolled out over a time frame instead of just changing it right away, because the towns that took a hit really did, and towns that had power generation and lots of substations had a greater valuation of those
That's the
assets.
dam.
Oh, yeah, you got the dam here. Yeah,
That's a.
I'm sure that's factored into it, but I think it's, overall, they just look at town by town.
What they, so they took a look across the state, and towns were doing different things in every town. So they instructed property valuation review to go out and try to even this out across the state. So they went out and talked to the power companies, got feedback from Vermont Electric and the different power companies. And what they found is for like substations, in a lot of towns, the listers didn't know anything about value. So they started giving them estimates on replacement costs for stuff like that. So within that, the shifts came. The complaint that the power companies, that I heard from the power companies, is that they never came back to talk to us after, and they never, a property valuation review never came back to talk to the league about this. And they just implemented what they had got after they got the information. And what? So the power lines went down. Across the state, it looks like the power companies are going to pay about 7% more. But it disproportionately affected here in Wolcott. I got the report from Morrisville Water and Light. I didn't get any report from Hardwick Electric on this, and I got the reports from Vermont Electric for the rest of the county. But the underlying piece is the power companies aren't all that happy with this either, because their costs went up and nobody came back to them afterwards to say about this. So they've got this in the towns going up and down. But basically the bottom line is, as Dan said, if you have generation or you have substations, and particularly substations are way more expensive than what they had been assessed.
We lost 2 million.
Yep, that's what I heard.
And then we lost 1 million basically for buyouts. We're down over 700,000 on our grand list versus last year.
I'll look into the dam and find out. I mean, I didn't talk to Hardwick, but it'd be interesting to find out, what they valued that at. If there was, what was the change? What was it before and what was it after they redid this valuation of the town? Because I have numbers from Morrisville Water Lake, but not Hardwick. And you've got 3 that. If co-op, do we have co-op in town? No, we just have 2.
No.
We just have
We
Morrisville.
have power, some of it, right, Tom? We have some remotes.
It goes, the lines go through, but I don't use it.
Those GMP lines or Delta?
This goes across line there a little bit. We, I get that, I voted for. So I was told.
Yeah,
So you're a lister, don't you know what the lines, who knows the bill?
The key change.
I know you never can.
what was the question? So what was the change?
No, I said the power lines that go through, what utilities do we
Yeah.
bill?
We have Morrisville Water and Light, Hardwick, GMP, yeah. Bill Galco?
Mostly Hardwick, that's.
Mostly Hardwick,
That's the 2 million, over 2 million.
right? What was interesting.
So was this a policy that they decided to make? What is this? Are you?
Where did it come from? I don't know where it came from.
Well, the
Must gotta stop somewhere.
as I understand it, a year ago, they instructed
The legislature?
the legislature instructed the tax office to send out appraisal estimates to try to even out what people were doing across the state, because it was so different from community to community. And they took it upon themselves in the tax department to lay this out in the timetable. and never went back to the league or went back to the utilities.
So we're not happy.
We hear that. The first piece, there's money in the budget. We may be able to get you on a line to help you with the flooding. I'm not sure about this.
I know. Not this year. Anyway.
Well, we can at least raise the issue with the commissioner.
It might be, go back to the way it was.
Well, I understand because PBR, they would set the value.
Yes.
And there's so many different district people. I understand that whole thing.
And
I think they stopped the ball. It's like they got lazy somewhere and just initiated it and didn't follow through. That's what it sounds like
And
to
it's,
me.
a lot of towns didn't know. And so I don't think there was clear communication.
No, definitely
not.
not. And the power company. They were just told to report how many miles lines and all of their infrastructure. And then all of a sudden they changed it.
and quite frankly, how would a lay board of listers know what a substation costs? Or be able to estimate those costs? But when you do this, you shouldn't just dump it on people.
Okay, you have any other enlightening news?
About the education bill, how it's gonna affect, like, how we just went through and look at this horrendous budgeting
Oh, yeah.
thing with the tuitioning out our middle and high school students. We just got whacked.
They
And,
filled the maximum amount on all.
right. So, and from what I understand, that maximum amount, the cap on it was let go or basically opened up. I don't know if there was a cap or if it was just how that went, but from what I understand, it was about $3,000 per student increase.
3 to 4.
Yeah, okay, 3 to 4. And how is this legislation that just passed, how is it gonna help a town like Wolcott? Who's in that boat?
That's a good question because, I mean, they're looking at redrawing all the supervisory. So we'll definitely, at the end of this year, we're going to be presented with 3 separate maps at the legislature, which will redraw the supervisory unions. Because right now, there's 50 some odd supervisory unions and they're going to drop it down. So I think that will also change. Where Wolcott falls, because right now with OSSU, will that become one supervisory union with Lemoyle North? We don't know yet. They just are starting to take nominations for the redistricting to figure out what that looks like. And, that's a few years out by the time that map comes back and that establishes what those districts will look like and the rollout of that.
Who's working on that?
So it's a committee of legislators and people that are have been superintendents and people that have been in education funding. And so there's 12 or 13.
No, the task force would consist of 11 members, including 5 non-legislative members, 6 legislative members. The non-legislative members would consist of 2 appointed by the speaker, 1 retired and 1 former superintendent of a school district, or somebody that a former retired school business manager. 2 from the Senate that have the same, and 1 appointed by the governor. And so that committee that's coming in, I'm a little concerned about that committee. From my point of view, the bill that just passed, it would have been helpful if the district lines had been in place before we had done the bill. because you're going to now share budgets or in a larger area. And, you know, the maps that have come in before this, the governor's office drew a map, the Senate Education Committee drew a map, and they had Memorial County, all of Memorial County in with Washington County. And that concerns me a lot. Washington County state our size. I know very few kids from Memorial County, they go to Barry to school. So I worry about that a lot, but that district map, the bill that just passed really won't have an effect in the immediate on you, because this is really a 3-year rollout for a plan. In the districts next year will be the next step in but it's a 3-year rollout for this plan in the overall.
And we're interested in trying to figure out how we make sure someone with Memorial County ties is on that redistricting committee. And as well as the tech centers have been advocating that we draw our supervisory unions around our tech centers. So having somebody on that redistricting committee who has a tech center background will be helpful for that.
This is going to be very important for Wolcott. That's most of the informational meetings, they said, well, let's pick schools so we can limit the cost, but you're going to open up the OSSUs and make them bigger, then maybe even within that OSSU, you can do bargaining, tuitions and stuff. Whereas, so why would we limit ourselves to like 3 schools if it becomes like that in 2029? I think our school boards need to know this, because why would they limit themselves if this is going to happen?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? I'm not saying anybody's going to choose to go to Barry or anything, but they have that option. Well, they have that option now. What I'm saying is, if we're in that district, it might be more, how do I want to say, more affordable.
They're also going to a foundation formula.
Yes.
So it's going to be a flat rate,
Right.
and it won't be different from school to school.
Okay.
So that's being in the district doesn't mean you can go to school anywhere within that.
I don't know how they're going to roll out the way we're set up now with school choice.
That minimal class sizes too is gonna be interesting, because it's gonna open up the can of worms of what schools do you actually balance the kids out at? Because some town has an elementary school. They have 2 elementary schools and they have a high school with not enough kids. It's like you do something where, I don't know, you send all the high school kids to like Craftsbury, send elementary kids to say like Wolcott or something.
I mean, there's
There's a lot of questions.
and there's a lot of things in this bill that haven't been fleshed out yet. It's basically setting that framework, because just like we saw that huge tax increase, others have seen it as well and have to come up with some sort of a plan to not have that keep happening. So, and we also did a lot around healthcare. This session starting to really look at drug prices, where we limited those to try to help reduce some of the healthcare costs. But depending on what comes out of the feds, that could be all. Who knows what's going to happen?
The class sizes piece, the class sizes minimums for grade 1, it's 10 students per in grades 2 to 5, it's 12. In grades 6 to 8, it's 15. In grades 9 to 12, it's 18 students. But all of this now is not totally mandatory. But it has a 3-year average that they're going to look at, but the pressure will be on to meet those.
And there is a caveat in there around rural areas where you may not be able to meet those. I think that is more target what they're looking to try to have class sizes be. But then they also know that when you get up into some of the, more rural communities, there's just not enough people there anyways.
And is it gonna actually be students or is it gonna be weighted students? Because that's a whole different conversation.
I believe it would be weighted.
Well, the weighted students will be in the formula to come up
For the money.
with the base amount to the money.
Okay.
This will be, I think, actual students in the.
Right. And I've reached out to one person who sits on LNSU, and she told me that she wouldn't be available to serve on this committee, and we're not even sure if we have the say get these people on. She recommended 2 other people on the LNSU board for me to approach to see if, because as Richie's concerned, with mine and Dan's, we want somebody, trying to get somebody from Wolcott County in this redistricting committee if we can. And then I spoke to Richard Nelson from Derby. He's asked the speaker if he could be appointed, and he's on the board of North Country. So at least you'll have a legislator with some school experience if he can get the speaker location. So I'm gonna reach out to these other 2 people, see if they're available, and then find out
And there's,
where they submit the names again.
yeah, we were talking about, I haven't even reached out to this person yet, but there was a retired, Secretary of Education who lives in Cambridge, who was there quite a while ago. Richie served with him, but no, for me. And that would meet the criteria.
But in the immediate, it's not going to affect the tax rate issue. And I would say, and correct me if I'm wrong, I think this supervisory unit last year used surplus money to buy down the tax rate. And what you're experiencing is what the rest of the state experienced last year for tax increases. And and there is $77 million in the budget that bought down the tax rate this year, which is probably roughly
6.
I was gonna say 7, in that range, since that it bought down the rate. But you're experiencing, because of the surplus that you used last year, what everybody else experienced, which is clearly, although I have some issues with this bill, the push behind doing something different than what we're doing is the present system that we can't afford. And
a lot of what you're talking about is all about how to do this cost savings, which there's not a ton of evidence that shows closing rural schools saves any significant amount of money. Like education costs what it costs, more or less. And this is all a great exercise, but we're kind of pinching pennies. Where is it make more sense? Like, I don't know if this bill has changes in how schools are being funded, shifting it off of local property tax and distributing it more statewide.
There is going to be another tax for second homes. And so they're going to look at coming back to the legislature this next year with a third tax bracket, if you will. I think that does second homes. So not rentals, not, long-term rentals, and not businesses, because those are all under the non-homestead rate. Then they have the homestead rate, but they're going to come back with a second home rate.
For more like short-term rentals. And
That will mostly be, a lot of just the houses that are empty that we all see in our neighborhoods.
I think that attacks 2 different problems, which is kind of nice.
And that will bring some more, that will, obviously take some of the pressure off of the homestead rate.
Have they thought of, as much as they love tourism in the state, a half a cent on the sales tax that goes to the school system.
All the sales-
All the state, so everyone pays it, including all the tourists and everyone that pays it.
The whole
So
sales tax goes to the ed fund.
Right now, all 6% goes to ed.
Yeah,
All of them. And, all of the lottery, all of the sales tax, we put a surcharge on, last year on short-term rentals that goes there. Here,
Lottery money goes there.
My opinion is that, local schools have better control over their costs than as we've gotten bigger, because I used to be the school district treasurer. As the supervisory unions expand and all their things expand and get bigger, they cost more money and they want more money. And local people have no voice in how they spend it. That's my opinion.
I think it's the supervising unions that are out of control.
well, part of this is redrawing the supervisory districts. We have 52 supervisory unions with business offices and superintendents in 52 districts. There are a lot of places in the country, small cities that are bigger than the whole of the state of Vermont that have one. The state of Hawaii has one district. And we
We used to have one accountant who would do all three schools. Now they have one person for every school that does all of the folks that. What happened to having this person do three? I mean, why did it all of a sudden we had to hire more people to have one individual overseeing the school? And they took it out of the treasurer's hands on the local level that was doing a lot of it.
Does it matter where the supervisory district stays? Is it independent of the town that it's supervising?
Yes.
Could it be in one location, or could there be several of them? Does it have to be near the town?
No,
No, it wouldn't necessarily. That's what we're gonna have a map that comes back to us. That delineates those supervisory.
So they could be anywhere in the state, basically.
Yeah,
Well, we hope if they're within the district.
we hope they're within Memorial County.
Yes. But we're not.
Depends on if something else.
Yep.
well, my worry is that I don't want Memorial County to get lost in the shuffle when they draw those numbers.
But wouldn't we have as much jurisdiction over the entity, even if it was?
It's gonna,
don't
the
know.
school board will be set up by population districts.
Right.
And so if I have a county that is 25,000 people, and I'm in with Washington County.
Right.
And Washington County's got almost 70,000 people, we're always gonna get outvoted. And they certainly, Barry's not gonna give two craps about whether they close the elementary school in Waterville, which has way less kids than Wolcott. And you've got Wolcott that is going to be pressed to meet some of these numbers. And I've got Eden that's going to be pressed to, they're going to give a crap about those schools in Barry.
That makes sense. Thanks.
So I'm worried about that. And that's why I would have liked to see a map before.
Lighter things, do you, want to fill us in on your transportation? We talked a little bit about.
So I've got a few sheets in transportation. I do want to report you that Town Highway Bridge 3 is in the T-bill this year. And what's your match? About 70,000? That about right?
It's all the construction's being paid 100%.
Pay for it.
We have to pay 5% of engineering, right of way costs, because we agreed to a detour.
Yeah, I said, what they told me is the local match is 76,000. But it would be nice to have that done. And how long has that been there like that?
Quite a while. Yeah, like 8 years.
It used to be only one.
I was told it would be 10 years when it first got closed.
And that was how long ago?
It's been 10 or 12 years.
Yeah.
I mean, we've been paying rental on that. At least 10 that I know of.
Okay. So, but that's in the budget for this year, and then so.
If it wasn't in March.
I've been to a couple of meetings here. And in the T-bill, we put language in instructing the agency of transportation. So I will be back to you when I talk about this. Instructing them to look at the programs for town highway aid, the town highway bridge program, the structures program, and all of the programs that go to town. And how would we think about that in a better way? Because most of that money comes, and when they talk about it, they go out. We want to give them a 3% increase. Has no relationship to what your construction costs are or anything, the shape of the roads, whether they're keeping up or any of them. And I put some language in there to start the conversation about, are there particular roads in town that are more important to the state system than others? And in the back of my mind, when we talk about that is, and I'll use, I use the example in Montpelier. If you're coming down Route 2, a lot of people go over Town Hill Road to, and use that as an offshoot on the state highway system. If you're in Stowe and you come up, you go through Moscow and to skirt out around the village and do that. And here you use the North Wolcott Road to come down. Is there a way, as we move forward, we can start to create a conversation about roads that are not just the regular town highway? And would we do look at them different and start to create a conversation over the next couple of years to open up a conversation about roads like that? For me specifically, the North Wolcott Road is something that I think about in that. So the agency will be starting to have that kind of a conversation, to come back with recommendations about how we might change. Totally started the process, totally start thinking about that in a different way. But for me, I want to make sure that you guys get to weigh in to say to them, that road's not the same as every other town road that you've got. And how do we recognize that in any formula that we put out? Totally preliminary, totally start the conversation, but I've heard you guys talk enough about North Wolcott Road. I mean, if there's any way to get a conversation going about that, I want to make sure you guys are included.
That's also say Town Hill connecting 15 and 14.
Yeah.
And Elmore Pond Road connecting 12 and 15.
Use the North Wolcott Road and then skip over on Delmore Pond Road.
Yeah.
So they get bypass in DOT.
Yeah.
Because we've talked about enforcement in the past on the way through the town, North Wolcott Road and Elmore Pond Road. I mean, that could be part of the conversation as well.
I will be getting a hold of you to when they get started to talk.
Great. We appreciate that.
None of this happens quickly.
I know.
I'm trying to raise the issue.
Anything else? You have anything to add?
Well, basically, it was a huge learning experience. Me, first 2 months were just a fire hose of information and I didn't know whether I was coming or going.
Whether you liked it or not.
After the second month, then we sort of started getting into a routine. And but there was a lot of information that I was still after. I'm actually on a new committee, energy and digital infrastructure. So the chair's new, so she's in the learning process, and everybody on the whole committee is all freshmen. Well, there are some Scott Campbell and Laura Sedalia, they've been there, but there's like 4 new freshmen on my committee, so we're all in a huge learning experience. We didn't send out a lot of bills out of our committee, only 2 came out to pass. One was a solar field bill that expedited, there's going from 15 to 25 kW, that same footprint. Now you can do 25 kW, so that it's been on sort of an expedited process. And so that will be helpful. A bit concerned with the Republicans on the committee, they just wanted to make sure. We'd like to see that payment for those utilities is at market rate, not subsidized. So, and then we did a digital infrastructure bill, which was to help the Agency of Digital Infrastructure Services to try to make sure they put some more monitoring on. We've got a huge budget explosion on computer upgrades that are very, very costly. And we tried to put some guardrails on there to make sure that people aren't just spending stuff and not getting the product they want. So that was what that digital infrastructure bill was.
The state.
For the state, all the state upgrades that need to be done.
It's been going on for quite a while.
Yeah. And so we're working it. Yeah.
Well, in the report that came out of the Office of Child, Youth and Family Advocate, he looked at the computer system at DCF and the reports, and because the computer system is so outdated, like it doesn't use a mouse, it's still like shift control, keyboard stuff, arrows. We're not eligible for a lot of federal grants because we can't pull the data out to be able to report the grants and to be able to get the grants. So some of these upgrades that we need to make will allow us to get access to more federal funds, especially for foster youth and youth in the custody of the state, because we can't comply with the requirements that they have on the data delivery.
Isn't the Department of Labor like that too?
Department of Labor too, as we saw during COVID when no one could get that system to work as well.
And I believe those are 2 priority systems that they're trying to get resolved and upgraded so that they work. People are still doing spreadsheets. Even in the agency of digital services, there are people doing spreadsheets to upload stuff. So you guys should have like the best system. It shouldn't be. But human services definitely needs, it should be a priority, and I hope it will. Yeah.
Something that comes to mind with all the cybersecurity stuff on the water and wastewater end, that's probably going to come down through. There are all these towns that are going to be spend real money on their alarm systems, computer systems,
Right.
that they're going to need funding for. Because that is the thing the government's going on right now, is they want you to make sure you check your cybersecurity, you have your wastewater infrastructure, that it can't be hacked by someone in Iran.
Right.
And disable your stuff using the internet. You gotta make sure that's all up to date and all that stuff. And a lot of towns don't have money for that in their budget, and they're talking along all other state infrastructure.
Money, money, money.
And we do have, we grew our government from 5.3 billion in 2019 to 9.1 billion to this year. And I don't know where it's gonna go from. There isn't a lot extra down here. Not clear. So, and, we can probably verify this, the chair from transportation in the house. He was saying that we're supposed to pay 300 miles a year, and we're only gonna be able to do about 150 miles. We've sent down the meeting, so we're not even keeping pace enough to keep pace enough.
That's
So we need to figure out how we're gonna fund the transportation.
Well, transportation is in real trouble. I spent a lot of time talking about that. The only reason we were able to put together a budget this year was there's 12.5 million in one-time surplus. It was set aside last year. And then we had some money that came, about 21 million out of FEMA flood money that was left over. And then we moved some money back, what they call the J-Talk transfer, and left the expense, which is about 20 million. That 20 will continue, but it's not growing. The only what that all only means is that for next year, we're about $35 million short in federal dollars to make federal match. And our matches are 10%, 90-10 on the interstate and 80-20 on a bridge like the one here and in state. So on average across the state, 17% of it, about 17.5% of it is state money and the rest is federal money. So we are at risk of not being able to draw down next year about $140 million on a $450 million construction. So we're up against the wall to figure out how to fund transportation. And that's happening for a number of reasons. One, we're all driving, if you're not in an electric car, the car that you're driving today is probably way more efficient than it was 20 or 25 years ago. In Texas, they did a study and 75% of the loss of money to their transportation fund in Texas is because their cars are more efficient. It's hard to find a car today that, well, most cars today are probably some pushing 30 miles to the gallon. And 20 years ago, it was probably 15. So that is a huge drop in revenue because our gas tax is flat. And then we have growing electric vehicles that haven't been paying their piece. So you have all of these things coming down, and since 2021, the Agency of Transportation here has seen a 64% increase in the cost of paving and bridge construction here. That's part of the reason why in the T-bill, I put the language in to look at towns. What's it costing for towns to do projects? I can give you a 3% increase and pat myself on the back for it. But if the cost of paving a road here is going up 15 or 18%, we're still falling behind. So that's my soapbox from my seat as chair of transportation. So,
Can I put one input in?
I love the input.
We have more bicycles that are on these state roads. I guess my biggest complaint is they can grab your plate number and say you harassed them or caused issues with them. But we don't have plates on their bikes. So if they're riding 3 abreast, not following the rule of the road, I should have a plate number on them. So why not start charging people that want to ride bikes in this state $15 to $20 to put a plate on theirs? So now I have someone I can complain to. Because the state cop's going to say, well, yeah, he was dressed in green or blue, but, you know.
Gonna say something that will probably get me in trouble.
Go ahead.
But as we build wider skirts on each side of the road, and we do a lot of it for bike traffic and everything. And this goes whether you, for me, whether you're electric, whether you're bike, whether you're anything. None of this infrastructure is for free. If I widen the road 2 feet on the side to everybody has got to pay something.
But that was my first complaint.
But I'm just, but
Right, I know what you're saying, but still.
The basic reason is you want to encourage bicycling.
I'd like to encourage it, but if he can take my plate number and complain, how can I identify that bike so I can put a charge against them?
I don't disagree with you, and I think it's good to encourage, but nobody can go for free.
Also, have you guys looked at ever thought around the state? Everyone wants a side by side. They want to use it. They have almost everything a car has on them now. I mean everything, including seatbelts, lights, blinkers. Why couldn't they be treated like motorcycles? With the insurance requirements and the whole 9 yards. There's a lot of other states. That's what they do. They'll collect money off people able to use class 4 roads with their ATVs legally and are just treated like a motorcycle. Inspection, insurance. Lights gotta work, no speeding, same laws. And other states collect a lot of revenue off that. And all the gas taxes you get off them. Which the state's not getting because everyone's going to Maine. And all these other places, but not here. You want tourism. But this is the source you're missing because everyone's leaving because there's nowhere to go here to use their stuff.
I hate to bring this up, but you also want to reduce gas consumption. So, you know, 4-wheelers that.
It's also-
Gas, what's the purpose?
It's also the electric ones they're making now. They're actually out west, the electric ones they're making. So you could have a Tesla version of an ATV. That's the other way it's going. So you could have that in there and cover the same thing.
Okay, we're way past.
Yeah, one transitional question for us.
Really?
Are you subscribed to the Wolcott, Town of Wolcott YouTube channel? You can see all these wonderful meetings and keep tabs on this. If you're not subscribed and click the notification. Well,
You got it.
We really appreciate you coming out.
yeah.
I'm gonna,
Anyone can reach out.
here's 5 copies of the outline from the Joint Fiscal Office of the Education Bill
Great.
that I'm going to use.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
See you later.
On a bike,
Here,
$15 to $20.
yes, you're welcome.
I
I mean, they use the
Thank
road.
you.
Thanks, Rich.
Thank you.
Yep. Hey, Belinda.
Right, so in front of you guys. I gave you the financials. These are the finals for the town and the transfer station. The transfer station, I'm very proud of this fact. We actually made money this year, over $16,000. You'll see the final after income and expense. It's $16,740.70. I consulted, one of the things Linda had brought up at one of the previous meetings was about, investing this and getting more interest on our money. Instead of just letting it sit there in the account. So I opened two different CDs, one for 10,000 and another one for 10,000 for 6 months running with a 4.0%. It's what the average is right now for 6 months of special. So I'm hoping, and I will continue to keep you abreast of how we're doing at the transfer station. We recently had a visit from the state. And there were a few issues which we cleaned up immediately and they thanked us. Our road crew helped us. I want to thank them personally. Michelle helped me. And she's the one that took the lady out. And so we learned some things, what we can and can't do. And we need to keep abreast of that. So, and stay on top of that. The last thing is the town clock of the fees now for the vault. So I contacted 5 different towns. 3 out of the 5 do $1 for 15 minutes. So that is my recommendation, because it's $4 an hour. I think 3 other towns in Wolcott County are doing it. We might as well do it too. So that's my recommendation is $1 an hour. $1 for 15 minutes? For 15 minutes, yes. Because that's how it averages out, Now I'm gonna want to do like a quarter, 5 minutes or anything like that. I think it should be. Somebody was here today, 20 minutes, I charged them $1 for 15. They weren't here half an hour, they were only here 15, fine, so $1. If that's okay with the select board, I recommend we go with that.
I prefer to do what other towns are doing so that we're not called out as being overly.
I also looked into the cost of our copies, color versus black and white. It's less than a penny difference, and we actually we're a little over 8 cents. So I think a dime still is good.
Do you need that as a motion or?
I would like it so that it's on the record that I have, so I can create a policy that the select board approves this.
Okay, I'll make a motion that we charge vault fees of $1 per 15-minute increments for using the land records. Do you have a second?
I'll second.
You have a second? Do we have any other questions, comments? Hearing none, all those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? So carried.
I'm gonna give you a heads up.
Very good.
The next meeting, we're gonna set tax rate about the school rate. It is bad, it's bad. Between with essentially our grand list going down 700,000, what we thought would be a 5-cent increase for us actually was a 7 for the town. Because we didn't know, we really didn't know. And the school was 27 cents.
27 cents?
27 cents. So we're looking at 34 cents. That's homestead. Non-homestead did not get hit as bad. With non-homestead, we went up for 7 and the state went up 7. So 14. So 34 versus 14. I'm just flabbergasted. The homestead people are going to have to pray for a huge rebate.
So I am wondering if you can look into this graduated thing for the buyouts. Before we set the tax rate, can we look into that more?
Yeah, I will. Yeah, it's just. as I was doing, I did this 5 times because I thought maybe I had the wrong figures, but I didn't. They didn't have the wrong figures from the state.
There's nothing we can do about the utility that.
Right.
$2 million in
That
that.
was too many.
I think we should actually send a letter to the tax department and our frustration and their lack of empathy for towns and just dropping the bomb. Like, some sort of letter should be acknowledged that we're just, it's not acceptable.
I mean, it was last minute when we found out about this. It really was. I don't think you found out about it until April, right, Tom? It's past April. It's not right. You could come up with a grand list by, the end of June and July.
Everybody's walking, they don't care.
Well, it doesn't matter. We'll send a letter. Maybe you can, other people are squawking. I hope they write letters too.
Thanks,
We'll
guys.
CC it to the governor, please.
Okay,
It's his tax department.
If you have any questions on the financials, you can let me know. Everything's in, all the interest, everything.
Right, we'll take a look at it.
Okay,
Thank you.
you're welcome.
So we have, Pinnacle Lane road designation for new subdivision. My understanding is that, the DRB asked the select board to make a decision on how we would, address the road on the new subdivision. But you know what? They don't need to see it. We need to see it because we're making the decision. Can you just take it?
Up there, right? Yeah, bring it over there, I'll do, like I usually do. Okay.
I've looked at it, so I never like. This is the end of Pinnacle Lane, right here.
Where it stops. And then where is the property D right here? This is his legal right away.
This is his driveway.
That's his legal access.
There's the property. And this is going to be, where's the
And
subdivision?
he's proposing these 2 lots here.
And how do you-
This access road here. The question is access road of the driveway. With continued Pinnacle Lane.
No. So the question is this to be considered a continuation of Pinnacle Lane? Or is this to be, and with a new name for the subdivision here? Or is this a new name of road? Is that the question?
Yes.
I know, but you can, I'll let you speak, but just so they know what the question is. Okay,
So I'm not quite sure, so Pinnacle View would come down here.
no, here. Here.
No, okay, back here, let's say. What is Pinnacle View?
Pinnacle comes up from the.
Right.
From 15 up to here and ends here. Town designation ends.
Okay,
here.
I get it now. So what happens? You extend Pinnacle View where?
So Pinnacle Lane stops right there,
Yeah.
and that's, this in yellow is Mr. Sweetser's
Right,
driveway.
right.
It's right away.
Where do you extend?
So,
To along the Pinnacle Lane.
well, you can have a lane, you can have a road that has different classes on it. Well,
I'm just curious, does it come down through here across
No.
this piece? And down here?
no,
so
there's nothing to do.
The existing way people are accessing it now is there's a driveway here. And there's already here, and then there's a drive down here.
Oh, it's this one I was thinking
He
of.
wants to create
Right.
this right here.
So somebody just point out where you extend Pinnacle View, is it from here, over through here, and then down?
So the 2 choices are. make this the extension here,
yeah.
and this is a driveway.
Yes.
Or extend Pinnacle here and make a second private road here. Those are the two choices.
But,
There are-
but let's think about it. Pinnacle Lane is a town road now. We don't own this driveway.
Right.
So we can't really officially make his driveway a town road because we don't own
There's another possibility, and that is you can branch a driveway off a driveway legally. So it would be legal to have an extended, a branch off. Is not even a need. You can have a private road off a private road, is all I'm saying. And so you wouldn't need to extend Pinnacle here, you just have a private road off this. Different name, the same name.
So the name is the problem.
Yes. My-
The name is the problem.
I've had this address
Yeah,
for, I don't know, 13 years or whatever. As 339 Pinnacle Lane. And it was a 900-foot, everything that I've done in for papers says it's a road. The driveway comes off from the end of the road. And there's a circular driveway at the end. And even the Green Mountain Power thing, back when they were doing it, they said it was an extension off of the thing, and that's what. It's not, it's a 50-foot right. That's what's in the. There's a right of way getting to that limit. After that, it was put in, it was all engineered to the state and the town and Act 250, the whole 9 yards. And it was put in as a road, about 900 feet with a hammerhead at the end.
That kind of changes everything. That's what this means. Egress to lot 8 and any subdivision thereof. I wondered what that meant. So you could subdivide this again through this road.
Yes.
So that can really complete this.
The only reason I'm selling these off is to pay for my garage that's here, and I'm not gonna have to mow 5 acres of them. I'm 76 years old, and it's time to cut back on some things, and that's what I'm doing. In my garage, I can go out and work in all winter long. To go for, I couldn't go to Florida anyway.
so what are you asking us?
I'm asking that this is still designated extension of Pinnacle Lane. So I can keep my address, so it doesn't change my social security, change everything, all of stuff as if I'd moved.
If we figure out
And what about
All my
the,
banks.
and what about the road for your subdivision?
If I'm reading this correct, it says you can have a road and two driveway or two off it. But the other thing is when this road was put in, this is all set up for two places. The septic is even in down. So basically what we're doing is, this is a new one. This was all continuous, but it was set up just in lane with two residential homes.
Did we figure out if your address was here?
That's what Tom thinks it is that
So your address is made to the end of Pinnacle Lane.
I didn't say that.
Oh, okay. I just said,
okay.
we questioned that.
But if it is an extension of Pinnacle Lane, even though the town has nothing to do with it, then I can continue my address.
And here's the problem, this is not this. And this got nothing to do with it. This has nothing to do with that. You could do your subdivision that way, but this is
There's a driveway already going into this one.
So what is the
That's good.
addresses of your new lots? Because
I haven't got far enough to get it.
That's what this needs to solve.
I want to know what he wants, what he thinks they should be. Are they gonna be Pinnacle Lane or something else?
If that's up to you folks.
No, it isn't, that's why.
we're here.
All right, I'd like this to be Pinnacle Lane, the 900 feet to the handstand. And if the lots need to have a designated road, the name, we'll put that in.
The town wouldn't make this Pinnacle Lane.
Well, I mean,
It will not make, it will not be an official town road.
It's to be his driveway.
It's the case of a private road off a private road, is that the
Right.
case?
I mean,
That's legal.
it's like Douglas Road is a private road, not a town road,
Where's the town road? But this is.
Town road to here.
Right. The town road.
Private road,
What about this road?
And then there'll be another
I
private road.
wanna know.
So two private roads.
this would be a second private road with a separate name, which should have nothing to do with his address.
Off his private road.
Yeah,
Right,
Okay, no, that's fine.
we just need to name it.
no, he does, it's part of the subdivision, it says,
You have to bring the name to the board for them to agree. There's a process, it's spelled out here if anybody's interested. I don't know if you got a copy of it here. There's a process for that option that you have to go through. That's detailed there about if you did branch a private road off a private road.
where are you getting this?
Oh, I'm getting it from, artificial intelligence. It's.
No, but I have an ordinance that tells them.
It should be the same, or not be surprised if it isn't. But I'm just telling you.
It says prior to issuance of a subdivision permit, which you're looking for. A developer, which is you, shall furnish a plan for a street naming and street numbering system in accordance with this ordinance to the select board. Final approval of a certificate, well, we don't have that. So the final approval of the DRB permit is not effective until, shall be withheld until permanent proper numbering at the displayed in accordance with this ordinance. Anyway, you are responsible for naming, numbering, and bringing it to the board and paying for those minimum on one side.
Okay. So this can be a street name there. I'm guessing it's gonna be called Hank Drive. Person I'm selling it to, I think, like a saying it, I mean.
Oh,
Yeah, and a lot of time closes Hank.
yeah.
That's what time the license closes. So I'm guessing Hank Drive would be very sufficient.
Where I come from in Lynchburg, we had to have homeowner agreements, we had big sprawls on this. And the second item here defines what you need to do in terms of a homeowner's agreement or explicitly spelling that out.
Well, that is something I have tried to get the DRB to address for years. And they have not, and it's caused a lot of trouble in this town, even between family members that don't even talk to each other anymore. Because you don't have that agreement in place, where there should be, who's gonna maintain it, is it 50-50, who's gonna pay for it? Really should be in place.
It's really bad up toward Elmore on that shirt.
Yeah.
Down there, Brookview, yeah.
In Douglas Road.
Well, the problem is in the subdivisions, there are articles like that, but the people have not done it. They have not got together to form their committee.
Well, it should be a condition of the DRB.
But this does spell out what you have to do in that case. I think legally, but Linda should check it against the real.
There's copies of previous ones in the files. Just type it up, you don't.
Yeah, that's pretty simple.
Yeah.
I think if each person has an agreement, it just says you can sue. It's legal to sue people if they don't live up to the agreement. Which we had ran into. You couldn't
Say
sue.
when you're buying this property on the deed, it should just say that, yeah, a covenant, yes, right.
Otherwise, you're gonna be plowing and maintaining.
Well, I tell you what,
You're doing it.
I do now, and when the spring comes and stuff, we call the town guys and tell them if it's got soft up there, so they don't have to come up with their 18-wheelers and that big plow and brush it off. We plow it with our pickups and stuff. No, we try it. I do water bars in spring. It's
So
we have a
So,
decision here.
do you need a motion or something?
Yeah.
Can you tell us what to say?
Yes, we're looking for a motion for the select board to approve an extension of Pinnacle Lane as a private road. And a private road offshoot from that called
Well,
Hank Drive.
he just to present it to us. and
Yeah.
number it.
Okay, is that a number?
You just have to read this.
So I make a motion that the select board approves extending Pinnacle Lane from the town to the end of the town highway. You said
900 feet.
900 feet
To a
as a
hammerhead.
private road.
For the hammerhead?
I went to the, back when I was doing this, I went to the people that were doing it and everything else.
And the developer, Mr. Sweetser, will present to the select board
One.
Since it's.
a name and, a suggestion for numbering, the name for, his private subdivision road.
A name for subdivision.
Yeah, which will come off
This is. This is
the Pinnacle Lane private road. Does that cover everything?
I'll read it back to you since then.
That's. Well, it was. It phones and stuff and done, and I
Mhm.
expect a copy that's in here, I would imagine. That the state says it's a little.
Well, yeah, anything over a road over 800 feet, we need from the state.
So I have motion to approve an extension of Pinnacle Lane, 900 feet on highway.
Yeah, it's down hard.
At the end of the.
Sorry, okay. At the end of the town highway, private road, and the developer will present for the name.
Or how about the portion, will come off of. Portion of. Come off, yeah, the wording's a little funky there. Just so you know that it's coming.
Will extend, so the subdivision road which will extend from Pinnacle Lane.
Yeah, but make sure,
To
make sure it's the Pinnacle Lane is a private road, not the Pinnacle Road Lane that's a county.
Okay, so a private subdivision road will intersect Pinnacle Lane, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Can you read that one more time?
I've got it.
So it's a motion to approve an extension of Pinnacle Lane 900 feet at the end of the town highway as a private road, and the developer will present to the select board a name for the private subdivision road, which will intersect Pinnacle Lane. That's clear?
Yeah, just, it's not, make sure, it's gotta say something that's gonna intersect Pinnacle Lanes, on the private portion. It's not gonna intersect on the town road. I just want them to.
The private portion of, it will intersect the private portion of Pinnacle Lane?
Yeah.
Okay. Sections.
This lane ends.
Yeah.
This goes down as a private road, this goes on.
Okay.
That sounds good.
So that was by Martin motion that.
Does it include that he will be paying for the numbering of the?
Well, it's in the ordinance.
It's in the ordinance.
Yeah. We have a second.
I'll second.
We have a second. Do we have further discussion? All those in favor? Aye.
Okay.
Opposed? So carried. You want to, seeing as Mark is here, do you mind if we just kind of skip to the, School Street water rent policy and then we go back to the report? Okay. So that is, did you want?
The dialogue that went back with them, you know. Under use of 8 minutes. Mark, do you want to talk?
So we are creating this, School Street water rent policy because in the research, and discussions, with our attorney, it appears that, the Wolcott School District had a policy with the users. But when it was transferred to the town in 2007 or so, we never adopted a policy and their policy wasn't, standing. They didn't transfer any monies they might have had or anything, so we've been going through this policy on and off for a while, and this is what we've come up with. Do you have comments on it?
No, I think it looks good. The only comment I'd have is the 300 for 147 School Street. Their last one, water system maintenance fee. The town will put 300 in for 147. And then any repairs on that property from the street to the house, I'm seeing that the town pays for those. It's the exchange for the stuff that goes back to the old agreements.
Right.
So it's all good there. Just unfortunate that the 300 a year didn't happen every year, and this is like the first time. Do the math, the 2008, when the agreement was made at a town meeting. If the town wanted to consider putting into the fund, no objections from the users, I'm sure.
Sure, but you were here to hear the bad news about our tax rate.
I just heard something about that.
Yeah. Yeah, the utilities, the state tax department changed the way towns assess utilities, and it took
Oh,
2.3 million value off our grand list, just like that, with no forewarning or anything.
for towns utilities.
Well, how we assess, the, Hardwick Electric and, you know, the electric companies that use, go through it now. They changed how towns assess them, and we came out on the short end.
Oh,
And, no warning whatsoever.
That was what she said, the 37. What
Yeah.
does that have to do with what you're talking about?
Part of
When you
it,
said,
yeah. Well, the 37 was the school tax.
oh, that was taxes. Okay, so this is something different.
No, taxes, that's all taxes, it's money,
Oh, okay.
yeah. I don't know where.
But anyway, no, I think it all looks good.
Do you have any interest in serving on this School Street Water System?
Yeah, well, I don't know if we need to meet 4 times a year.
Well, yeah, I don't either, but you could. It's just in there if you needed to.
Oh, yeah, okay.
But you could say, we're gonna vote against it. Not that- That quarter, there was nothing to,
Nothing to
Yeah.
discuss.
right,
Okay. Yeah, all right. We can just go with the way.
definitely in the summer, setting the rate. The committee.
Yeah, the annual set the rate thing is good.
Yeah, and then I think in the fall's good, in terms of the hay bales and checking it, winterizing it and so forth.
Yeah. Phil and I have been going up in the spring and the fall
Yeah,
every year.
and it'd be good if, you could, get us, whoever the select board are gonna serve on this committee, they get used to knowing what's going on too.
Yeah, if you had one person on the board that wanted to do it.
Well, I think that costs about, what is the membership? It tells here, doesn't it? One select board, yeah, and 2 schools.
Yeah,
What did you say, Mom, I work with?
Yeah,
Phil Field.
is he staying around?
He claims he is eventually moving, but I've been hearing that for a while, so I don't know. He's pretty quiet about the details.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
he did tell me that he would continue to do what we've been doing, so he could be considered the number 2 guy until he splits down.
I think we should put it out there, though, at least give the users an opportunity. I don't see anyone stepping forward, really.
Yeah, I don't know if Eric might be interested later in life, but right now he doesn't seem to be. And Robert, I don't even know Robert. Yeah. Has the old Bishop property been sold again?
I don't know, but I saw a whole bunch of people there. I don't know if it's been sold, but I saw a lot of people up there.
Yeah. Or something was going on too.
So do we have any other, we've had comments on this back and forth for a number of months. Are we ready to adopt this policy? Last, Richard? Okay, I'll take a motion to accept the school street water rate policy.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? No, all those in favor? Aye. Opposed? So carried. Well, is there someone from the board that, I don't, Michael would want to be on it? Is someone that would like to be on this committee?
I know Mark.
Sounds good.
Okay, we'll send out a quick memo to the users, see if anyone else is interested, and we'll ask Bill if he's interested too.
Yeah.
It's just a matter of setting up some date here in the fall to meet.
Now, you need to meet this summer in August to set the rate, so it's a matter of looking at, what we have in our,
You guys still maintain a water system file, right? And so, yeah,
yeah, we keep that money separately, we don't spend it, so.
yeah, and then so we can go August, sounds good.
Yeah, usually in August, just look at the financials for the year, see if you think there's any reason that you needed to change in any kind of maintenance you expect to do or should do, and then you set the rate. Great.
I know the reservoir lid. The hooks have been long broken off the top of it, so it's a challenge getting that lid off. But to buy a new lid, a concrete one. Road up there, you guys, the town owns that land now. Right? Along with the Westovers,
Yeah,
that road,
I'm still waiting to hear from the state about the Westover spring.
really,
I think they'll let us,
what they do, just cap it off on the property.
yes.
There was never a shut off.
Yeah, it just came right in the basement, right? So they probably had to put a shut off on it, or out it, or they just capped it. Yeah, that's a question for him too.
Maybe a way to drill into that lid.
We've talked about it, go up with a cordless drill and drill 2 holes and come, bolt with a big hook on the top, or easier. So maybe we will do that. Bill and I have talked about doing that. The 3 springs still have the hooks on there.
Get a hook on it and just put some Vertex or something to seal it, so you don't have debris going in.
Yeah. Need some adhesive that got bolted together. Sure. That'll work.
Sure.
All right. Thank you. All right, thank you. We'll see you later.
So. I wanted to let, like Linda's aware of this, but I wanted to let the boards know that we are missing 138 E911 signs. They have disappeared, so we're missing signs for North Wolcott Road, Richard Wolcott, Yarrow Meadow, Arish Drive, Independence Drive, Fraser, Heath Drive, Sand Hill, Dump Road, and Dumper. A total of 138. I have looked everywhere in this building, probably 10 times. I've looked in the bus barn. Deanna's looked in the bus barn. I have looked all around the garage. The guys were looked around the garage. I can't find any there. So 138 signs at roughly $25 a piece to replace those. It's not gonna be a pretty sight.
And they were ordered, and we have the invoice, and we have the Dylan picked them up.
Oh, no, Dylan, Dylan picked up, I think, the North Wolcott Road one. And then picked up a couple of the other Richard Wolcott batches, so. The batches have been picked up. Signature. I just don't know where they are. I know that Bob had been working with them and punching them out. Like he would sit in the town garage, so I'm told, and punch them out or sit in the shed. But not all of the ones have been punched, so I don't know if he was, I don't know. I inherited this, I don't know. Anyway, Jeff is making progress with in getting them in. And we've been calling Dig Safe. I've been, getting Dig Safe out to every road. With FEMA, the town has a new project manager assigned. Her name is Mo. I've sent out an email trying to schedule a time to meet with her and get her up to speed. But I have not received a response yet. Then I have a contract here. Linda and I awarded the 696, the Oscar Woods House, 696 on Wolcott to Larry Furno for the next demo project. So I have a contract here for him to sign. Linda and Larry met with the state, was that with A&R or BEM? Just to talk about the slope and how to best mitigate that slope. And then looked out, I've included generalities in this contract about that Larry needs to contact BEM when he has the house removed so that they can figure out how to best proceed, and the guy wants to come out, stops, come out, take photographs and everything, so that's and then I met with the contractors for the pre-bid demo for 3670 North Wolcott Road. I was able to, I'm trying to find somewhere to take, they have really nice cabinets and countertop. I'm trying to find someplace to take them. Habitat for Humanity won't, we would have to ship them and get them down there and install ourselves, and I'm like, we're not interested in spending any more money. I did call and left a message with Resource as well as with the Franklin County Sportsman's Club, just waiting to hear. With the MERS grants, Tori sent out an RFQ for the solar portion of the MERS grant as well as the insulation portion. Both Sterling Mountain Solar and Suncommon submitted RFQ, so we are obliged to go with one or the other. I have met with with Sterling Mountain Solar today, meeting with Suncommon next Tuesday. Sterling Mountain said he can get the 28 panels on the south facing side, so here up above here. And the batteries for his base estimate of $52,000 to $55,000, which is well within our budget in the grant, which was $69,951. So there's a lot of contingency money in that amount of money there. And he said it's all inclusive. It's the wiring, the panels, the batteries, the installation. He thinks we will have to take it out to that pole over there, that meter. So I think that it would be best to have the road crew kind of trench it along the grass and then go under the road. We'll just have to figure that out.
Yeah, you better, work with, there's a lot of stuff out there.
Dig safe.
Yeah, and the septic that goes from the library comes across somewhere, and yeah, there's a lot of stuff.
Okay. Get rid of that, thanks. I am concerned that the roof is what we think was installed about 2007. The shingles look fairly good. I asked him what it would cost. So we have options. We can replace the shingles on this portion of the roof now. He didn't recommend piecemealing the replacement of the shingles, that I would get a roofer in and figure that out. Or if the roof goes in 10 years, which is probably a 20 to 30 year warranty on this, if the roof goes in 10 years, it would cost us $200 per panel or $5,600 to take the panels off, do the roof, and reinstall them. And he said, as long as he's in business, he would guarantee us the $200 would not go up. So I think kind of we may have 10 or 12 more years. They're only 17, 18 years old. We may have another 10 to 15 years life on them. And it's up to the select board to kind of figure out what you want to do, but it would cost $5,600 to move them off to replace them. And we don't really have a budget to do roofing right now.
What's the life of the solar panels?
They are the life of a roof, basically 20 to 30 years. Which is why I got the cost estimate of what it would take to take them off. We just didn't, I don't see that we have it in our budget to be through the roof.
Has anyone seen how many layers of shingles are there? because you can go 2 layers. So it's just a matter of putting another layer over the existing. Which is cheaper,
Yeah, but we didn't budget for it.
right?
And we still need to do snow guards around the library. So just letting you know, those were the thought processes. Again, I'm meeting with Suncommon next Tuesday. And then I just want to know if the board would like to authorize Michael and me to award the bid to either one of these companies. Or would you like to see the bid first? It's up to you all.
Personally, Michael's in charge of this one, I would let him, I mean, he's done the. It's bad unless the board has a problem. Some Commons was going out of business or something.
I checked them out today. They were in bankrupt, so the original company was in bankruptcy, purchased by a new company about a year ago in March of 2024, I think, April. And they're with a new company, and the first company is, the parent company was in bankruptcy, that I'm talking about. So now they're in New York and Vermont, so less local. The Suncommon bid was higher on the RFQ by about 8 to 10,000.
So there could be some pressure on renewable energy companies if this federal budget bill passes. Because they're cutting all the subsidies for all that stuff.
I don't know if I need a motion to grant Michael Perry permission to award the bid.
I'd like to have it tabled and see what happens with this.
Well, the bids coming in, I mean, when is the bids up there?
It's not really an RFP because it was an RFQ, so we have 2 companies that are sending us their bids.
Yeah.
So, I mean, we could bring it for the board. But, I met with one company today and then with the next one on Tuesday and then with the 2 company. I mean, the estimates will come.
Well, don't you already have them?
I have their RFQs. Tori put out an RFQ and there were 2 companies that responded. So those are the 2 companies that have qualifications for so that we can put this, not really even an RFP because they're 2 companies. So I'm just getting estimates from both companies.
So you haven't gotten them.
Not the estimates yet.
All right, I guess just bring back on the 16th.
Okay.
How many Michael will be here?
Highway department, I'm sorry, the health department. So 213 Warren Hill properties now totally cleaned up, looking really good. The dumpster's gone. It's looking like it should be looking. I also sent a violation letter to the Nazarene property, and that property has since been cleaned up. You know, if you wanted to talk about that, if you want to talk about that now or under.
Let's have your section finished.
The highway department, so the truck lease was signed and it should begin it began 2 days ago, the first, yesterday, the first. The 1-ton truck per, I think this per Waterhouse is up on Collinville Road. He said that it's probably something in the body control module. It's a computer board in the dash, or it's a wire leading to or from it. He estimates the repair to be at about $2,500, depending on the issue. The crew was gonna tow it to our house garage yesterday, so that it's there on the first.
I thought you said Larry figured it out. Oh,
He figured out it's somewhere in there too, but you need the special equipment to really start pulling these wires. If it's in the computer board dash, the computer board in the dash, you really need your special equipment to diagnose that issue. The road crew's still working on Baldwin Road. Dylan said it was in pretty bad shape, so the berms are off. They've done the ditching. They're nearly finished, and they added 140 cubic yards of gravel. Grading. The street mowing, we decided to get the street mowing earlier, have it done earlier now, because there are a lot of invasives like Bishop's weed and trying to prevent the spread of invasives. So trying to mow at a period of time where we can get the blooms off before they go to seed, and still in a period of time where we don't have high grasses again in the end of August. So Dylan decided that we could get, like every year, book the mower for the last week of June, or at least the first week of July. So he's out there now mowing. We have the rental coming for the rotary branch cutter. They're going to start doing that next Monday. And finally, they hauled 15.5 tons of scrap metal to all metals and received $1,238. As far as animal control, Dean Mercier has contacted me and said he's willing to serve as a volunteer ACO assistant to help Mike with the high volume of calls that he's getting if he needs help. Because there's the animal abandonment and strays are becoming a problem in every town. And it's not, I mean, the volume is increasing here in Wolcott as well. So it was just to make this official, I thought that we could get, if the board agrees, a motion to appoint Dean Mercier as a volunteer ACO assistant. And then we'll have him in touch with Mike, as well as Passion for Paws and Justice for Dogs and a couple of other foster organizations. Passion for Paws has said that to avoid euthanasia, they will pay for dogs over 7 days. They will pay for the kennel fees if the dogs exceed 7 days and stuff.
where are they at?
They're local. They're at a pipe park. They have a nice website. She's just trying to get their the 401ks. I mean, they're 501c3 status.
What's the board feel about appointing Dean as a volunteer?
Sounds good.
Huh?
Sounds good.
Or make a motion then?
I'll make a motion, Dean should be appointed as a backup for the animal control.
Assistant, or do you want it back?
Volunteer, because we have no money.
We got volunteer ACO assistant.
Yep.
I'll second.
All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? So carried.
I'll get his number listed on the website again. And finally, we received the Hyde Park Kennel Agreement, but we only received pages 1, 3, and 5. So I'm waiting to get the back pages, and we'll present that next time. And that's all I have.
Want to bring up your dump trash ordinance?
Well, I think I'd like to know what is considered trash by that ordinance.
You mean in respect to the woman across the street?
Anywhere.
Well, it says that you can't, if you have a tag sale and you put 3 piles out, that can only be, well, how long is it there? 2 weeks?
2 weeks.
2 weeks. That's it.
I mean, I have the ordinance if you want to read it.
I read the ordinance, but that comes now to Wheeler, Bruce Wheeler. He's been doing it for 2 years now,
He takes the items in, I check every morning, he takes them in at night, and brings them out.
but it's still there.
That's,
No, we're not gonna get personal. here.
No, I'm not
It
getting
is
personal.
It is,
No, I'm not getting personal. Plus, you have Vanderbilt's over
Lay it
here.
on tables and things, so it's clearly marked. That other stuff was just a trash heap.
Right, but it was
So-
only there for a couple of weeks.
it was there for a long time, and we got complaints about it.
Yeah, multiple complaints, and so I made the decision to invoke the ordinance. Because it was growing, people were dropping stuff off.
Right, more people were adding to it,
And-
which, is that her fault?
It doesn't matter, it was becoming a trash heap, there was no rhyme or reason, it was wet and soggy, it was just a trash heap, and it could become, dogs or animals or rat, I mean, anything could be.
Usually when we receive a complaint, we act on it. We received numerous complaints on hers and numerous complaints on Lori Hill. That's generally how we move forward with, we just don't go after everybody. I mean, that's how we generally have invoked that ordinance.
Okay, because like I said, I've seen Bruce Wheeler's stuff right now as I came.
But it goes in at night because everyone's make them, it does, because I've been watching it, I come in the morning at 7 a.m. and it's inside. I've looked.
Okay, because I do it myself. I just go around town checking.
Always in when I drive by. 4 days a week. Because I asked myself the same question, how are we gonna enforce this and not this other one? But there's a clear difference between having a free stuff sign, but the stuff is inside at night, it's not getting wet. So, and the stuff is disappearing, and this other one, the piles were growing, and it was just willy-nilly, a bunch of crap, wet and soggy that nobody's gonna take. And so it's just this pile of stuff that's never gonna.
Didn't you just take it and move it next to her house?
No, it's not. You see next to the house.
Well, you know, that's not even her property, it's her grandmother's, and her grandmother's the one we dealt with.
Well,
We
she's
did not
partial.
deal with her.
She's partial.
Not on the deed, not on the deed, yes, absolutely not anything,
It's 4 minutes.
yes. It's hollow and growing. I've had many conversations with her.
No, I just want to make sure everything's being done fair. And I've gone around the whole town and I've seen other places, if you go by this ordinance, they should be contacted.
But when I hear about them, I try to reach out to them. Yeah, well, first of all, there's a due process. Send someone over. And then second of all, if it's causing rats and things like that, you get the state involved with the health
Right.
department. So I
Well-
send Mike up there. And so
I
there's
think,
a process.
I think one place I would look into is 277 Flatiron.
Are there piles of junk?
Oh, there's a pile of used cars that are not licensed. I know. I mean, if you're gonna be fair, you gotta treat everyone, not just one.
Well, we need to, we do, when someone complains, if you want to make a complaint, sign a written complaint to the administrator. We do not go around looking at everybody's yard and picking on people. We only act on complaints. I mean, people even stopped in this office driving by. I mean, so upset that all that stuff was out there by that church and that garbage. I mean, people complain about it.
It's been going on all winter now. That's when it was up closer to the house, and I didn't feel like we had anything to enforce. If there are piles of trash, especially garbage bags and things like that. And that's what we had up at 213. It was rats, you had rats up there, and that's when the state gets involved.
Right, we'll move on. The athletic field storage container permanent location. I haven't done anything about it because I don't know what to do.
We haven't got any building from FEMA, have we?
No, I haven't done anything with FEMA because at the last time I knew, Ryan did not like it there. And Ryan and Plant were going to go up there and talk about it.
I mean, it hasn't moved.
No, and I need to deal with it before FEMA comes by and says I'm in violation, so I'd like to get it settled. So the last time Ryan did not like it there, complained to the board. He came in and we told Ryan and Flint to go up and work it out. And his email says, "Hi, Michelle, Flint and I talked about moving back onto the grassy area just off the new parking area if it was going to stay. I still have reservations about why it needs to be there. Either location at that site will be in an area that was previously flooded, and considering it is only used for a few months out of the year, it still doesn't make sense to me. The previous location at the bus barn kept it well out of the flood zone. I get it may be inconvenient, but at least it was safe there. Thanks for checking." Flint's wanted it there because he felt that it wasn't convenient, and players, it would be hard for them to lug all their stuff from the bus barn over to the ball field. So we've got two opinions, and I need to know how the board wants me to write to FEMA about where we're gonna put it. When we filled out the FEMA placement to buy the container, rather than having a shed, which we can't have on the ball field, I was decided that Flint wanted the container, and FEMA asked the location, and we said it would be at the bus barn. So that's why I need to let them know it is or it isn't at the bus barn, and whether it will stay on that, or whether I ask permission to have it stay on that other lot. I've done nothing. So it keeps going back and forth. So I need to know what the board's pleasure is.
Where did you guys arrive at?
We
On
just,
other lots, it would go there, like on something above the top, anchored.
well, he was. What's his name? Flynn was saying he wanted to put it on concrete blocks, 6 of them, to anchor it. So it would lift it 2.5 feet off the ground.
So
And if you go-
again, you want to put
Flynn
on,
wanted to put the storage container on 6 concrete blocks, which would lift it 2.5 feet off the ground. And by FEMA standards, that would work.
and keep it where it is.
Right.
And that's the board's pleasure.
I don't know,
That's why I'm asking. Is that what?
I had no problem where it is.
That's where he's gonna put the concrete blocks.
Right, but if FEMA won't agree to that, then we have to see if it'll go by the shed over here.
Well, they've already said it's okay at the bus barn.
Right. I
That's
just
where they think it is.
think that's
And
what,
and it isn't, it's the Vermont Emergency Management is the one that gave us the grant to buy out Betty Lewis. And I have to ask permission to do anything on that property if it isn't, just left open. So that's why I have to write a letter to them.
do we have the room to put it to the, next to the old shed?
It was there before.
It was sort of it's tucked inside where you couldn't get into the bus barn.
Well, somebody left it there, dropped it there, right in the opening, so you couldn't get in, but then it got moved to the side.
So
I
the
don't
right side
know who dropped
makes
it
The
there.
right side is a flooded area. It floods there. So if you put it on the left side, then the neighbor guy can't pull his stuff out.
Well, how come it can't go in? That thing is empty.
I don't know why they didn't get it in originally, so I don't know if there's a problem getting it inside. And if the thing collapses.
That's not gonna hurt the container.
The containers out by the edge of the front of the building, I actually would support it.
There's no room to put it on Steve Wolf's side. There's no room. It's like built right on the property. It's probably, if it fell down, we could never put it back. It's not the code. It needs to be 25 feet from the property line, so. There's no room to put it on the left side.
No, because he has all of his vehicles back there anyway. So.
But if he was to take the 2.5 foot concrete blocks and put them on the right side, that would eliminate the problem with water drainage. So why don't we tell him, just to make everybody happy, to move it down there and do that.
To the bus barn?
To the bus barn, the right side, put the blocks in. Because then we don't run into problems with the buyout and it may Ryan here be happy. Yes, it'd be sort of a problem where they gotta go get their equipment, but
I mean, if they had a truck when they're doing it today, put me in the truck and go down there, then back truck, bring it.
get that truck and go back and forth. I think that way you'd solve all the issues. Make everybody happy. That sound viable?
Yeah, I'll give it a try. Don't have anything else.
Lost Richard.
What was going through?
I make the motion, we end the meeting.
I'll suck it.
8:32. Well, you know,